Hello and welcome to Cheating Husband Story.
Let's see how she gets back, Gabriel laughed, his voice cutting through the evening air as he slammed the car door. The tail lights of our rental car grew smaller and smaller, disappearing around the bend of the narrow Italian street, leaving nothing but dust and the echo of my husband's friends' laughter. I stood frozen, my mouth still open in mid-sentence. The argument we'd been having outside the small cafe suddenly rendered meaningless by his unthinkable action. "He's coming back," I whispered to myself, drawing curious stares from locals enjoying their evening meals at sidewalk tables. This is just to scare me. But the knot in my stomach tightened as minutes stretched into an hour, the sky darkening over the unfamiliar town, whose name I couldn't even pronounce correctly. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being part of this journey. If you're drawn to stories of women who find strength in unexpected places after betrayal, consider subscribing. It's completely free and helps support more stories of resilience and rebirth. Now, let's witness how one abandoned woman turned an act of cruelty into the beginning of her freedom. When I begged Gabriel not to drink so much at lunch, I never imagined it would escalate this far. His friends, college buddies celebrating their annual guys' reunion that I'd been reluctantly invited to join, had egged him on when I suggested we head back to our hotel. "She's always controlling you, man," Pete had said, ordering another round. When I stood up to leave, Gabriel had followed me outside, his words slurred, but his anger precise. The fight turned ugly fast, with years of resentments bubbling to the surface on both sides. "Your purse has your passport, right?" he'd sneered before climbing into the driver's seat. "Then you'll figure it out. You're so smart, always telling me what to do." Night fell completely as reality sank in. The charming Italian town that had seemed so picturesque by day now felt threatening. I counted my cash. $80, 37. Not enough for a flight home, barely enough for a night's lodging. My credit cards were in Gabriel's wallet. He'd offered to carry them earlier when my small purse had been too full. I found the cheapest pension I could, a dingy room above a bakery with a narrow bed and a sink in the corner. The elderly woman who showed me to the room spoke no English, but seemed to understand my situation, patting my arm sympathetically. "He blocked me," I whispered to myself in disbelief, staring at my phone. 27 calls to Gabriel, all sent straight to voicemail. Text messages delivered but unanswered. I tried Pete, then Marco, then every one of Gabriel's friends who'd been in that car. All blocked. A shudder ran through me as I realized this hadn't been a momentary impulse, but a calculated humiliation. Sleep came in broken fragments, interrupted by hopeful checks of my phone and renewed panic. By morning, I'd convinced myself this nightmare would end. Gabriel would return, apologetic, but ready to blame me for overreacting to his joke. I'd be angry, but relieved enough to move forward, to return to our carefully constructed life in Boston, where he was a respected architect, and I was his supportive wife who'd set aside her own design career to manage their home and social calendar. But he didn't come. The second day, I rationed my remaining money, buying only a panini for lunch while walking the town's perimeter, checking every hotel and restaurant for any sign of our tour group. By evening, I realized they'd continued their planned journey, moving on to Florence without me. On the third day, a kind cafe owner who noticed me lingering outside his establishment offered me free espresso and, in broken English, directions to the local police station. The officer there seemed unsurprised by my story, as if abandoned tourists were a regular occurrence, but his limited English and my non-existent Italian left me with nothing but a filed report and a sympathetic nod. That afternoon, I made the hardest decision of my life. Standing before a cramped pawn shop window, I twisted off my wedding ring, the 2-carat diamond Gabriel had upgraded on our 5th anniversary, replacing the modest band we'd started with. The shopkeeper offered me far less than it's worth, but enough to fund the next step of my journey, wherever that might be. "America, call family," the pawnbroker suggested, counting out euros. I nodded mechanically, but inside a different plan was forming. Family meant explaining. meant hearing my mother's "I told you so" about Gabriel's temper, meant facing friends who'd seen the cracks in our marriage I'd tried so hard to plaster over. The bus station was quiet when I arrived, its electronic board displaying destinations I'd only read about in travel magazines. An overnight bus to Rome, connected to ferries, to other buses, to places where Gabriel and his friends wouldn't think to look for me, if they ever bothered to try. My finger hovered over my father's name in my contacts. One call, and he'd wire money for a flight home. One call, and I'd return to the life I'd built, where I'd slowly made myself smaller to accommodate Gabriel's expanding ego and demands. A memory surfaced. Gabriel jokingly hiding my portfolios when I'd mentioned returning to interior design work. "Why complicate things?" he'd asked. "We don't need the money, and I need you focused on our life." I'd laughed it off then, but sitting in that grimy station, I saw it for what it was, another fence in the pen he'd built around me. "Where you go?" asked the ticket agent, an older woman with kind eyes who'd been watching me stare at the departure board for nearly 20 minutes. "Greece," I answered, the decision crystallizing as I spoke it. "The furthest coastal village you can get me to." 14 hours later, I stumbled off the final bus in my journey, my body stiff from uncomfortable seats and tension. The smell of salt air and olive groves greeted me as I took in the whitewashed buildings of a village whose name I couldn't pronounce. My phone battery had died somewhere between countries. My stomach was hollow with hunger, and the weight of what I'd done, or what had been done to me, pressed on my shoulders. Exhaustion made the edges of my vision blur as I wandered toward what appeared to be the town center. 3 days of emotional whiplash had left me raw, cycling between rage at Gabriel, fear of my uncertain future, and a strange, unexpected flicker of something that felt dangerously like liberation. My remaining euros would cover perhaps 2 nights in the cheapest room I could find. After that, I had no plan, no friends, no words in the local language beyond please and thank you. But as I watched the sunset paint the Aegean waters golden pink, a calmness settled over me that I hadn't felt in years. Gabriel had meant to teach me a lesson about dependence. Instead, he'd accidentally set me free. The Greek sun beat down mercilessly as I wandered further from the village. My feet blistered inside impractical sandals meant for sightseeing, not hiking. My water bottle had emptied hours ago, and the combination of dehydration, hunger, and emotional exhaustion made the world tilt around me. Silver-green trees lined the dusty path, their leaves shimmering like coins in the breeze. Olive groves, I realized dimly, just before my knees buckled beneath me. The ground rushed up to meet my face, but I barely felt the impact. Darkness edged my vision as a strange calm washed over me. Perhaps this was fitting, abandoned by my husband in one foreign country, only to collapse alone in another. I closed my eyes, giving in to the exhaustion that had been building since Gabriel drove away. "Theos mu, Koritsi." A woman's voice cut through my haze, followed by weathered hands turning me over. An elderly face swam into focus, deep lines etched around kind eyes wide with concern. She spoke rapidly in Greek, patting my cheeks and offering a canteen. The water revived me enough to sit up, though my head still spun violently. She introduced herself as Elena, repeating her name while pointing to herself. I mimicked her gesture weakly. "Alexis." Elena helped me to my feet, her small frame surprisingly strong as she supported my weight. She pointed toward a stone farmhouse nestled among the olive trees and made walking motions with her fingers. I nodded, lacking the strength to resist, as she guided me slowly up the hill. The farmhouse kitchen welcomed me with the scent of herbs hanging from wooden beams and something savory bubbling on an ancient stove. Elena settled me at a worn wooden table before calling out to someone. A man's voice responded, and moments later an elderly gentleman with a sun-darkened face and silver moustache appeared in the doorway, wiping his hands on a cloth. "Nikos," Elena said, pointing to him. Her husband nodded at me cautiously, his eyes questioning, but not unwelcoming. Elena poured cool water into a glass and pressed it into my hands, followed by a bowl of simple soup. My stomach growled audibly as the aroma reached my nose, prompting a smile from Elena. That evening passed in a blur of broken communication. I tried to explain my situation through a combination of limited words, hand gestures, and eventually tears. Elena nodded as if she understood completely, though I knew she couldn't possibly grasp the details. Nikos remained quiet but attentive, occasionally asking questions that Elena translated through gestures. They offered me their spare room, a simple space with whitewashed walls and a narrow bed covered by a handmade quilt. Too exhausted to protest, I collapsed into much-needed sleep. Morning arrived with roosters crowing and the aroma of fresh bread. I found clean clothes folded at the foot of my bed, a simple cotton dress and cardigan that looked decades old but freshly laundered. They hung loosely on my frame, but offered a welcome change for my travel-worn outfit. In the kitchen, Elena beamed at my appearance, immediately serving strong coffee and fresh bread with olive oil and honey. With daylight clearing my mind, embarrassment crept in. These strangers had taken me in without question, fed me, clothed me. I needed to explain myself, to offer payment, to move on. Through broken English and the translation app on my phone, now charged thanks to an adapter Nikos had produced, I attempted to convey my gratitude and intention to return to the village. Elena's face fell immediately. She shook her head vigorously, pointing outside where rain now pattered against the windows, then to my still blistered feet. "Stay," she insisted, one of the few English words she knew. "Rest." Over the next 3 days, I made several attempts to leave, each met with gentle resistance. Once, with my purse in hand and shoes on my feet, Elena intercepted me at the door, her expression so wounded that guilt washed over me. She took my hand and led me to a small wooden box on the mantel, opening it to reveal photographs. Her fingers trembled as she pointed to a young woman with Elena's eyes and Nikos's smile. "Sophia," she said softly, then pointed far away. "Australia." Her eyes filled with tears as she made a cradling motion with her arms, then held her hand at waist height, indicating a child. "Grandbaby," she managed in English, pointing to a more recent photo of an infant. "No see." I understood then. Elena saw in me a surrogate for her absent daughter, a presence to fill the hollow space left behind. Rather than feeling manipulated, my heart ached for her loss. I nodded slowly and returned my purse to the hook by the door. Each day brought new routines as I gradually integrated into their farm life. Elena showed me how to gather eggs from the chickens without frightening them, how to hang laundry so the mountain breeze would catch it just right. Nikos taught me to identify weeds among the vegetable garden, his patience evident as I mistakenly pulled up an herb the first time. The work was physical, nothing like my carefully curated life in Boston, but satisfying in ways I'd forgotten existed. My body, accustomed to designer gyms and measured exercise routines, protested at first. New calluses formed on my hands, and muscles I didn't know I had ached each evening, but with each passing day, the pain lessened and my strength grew. More importantly, the constant mental cycling through my abandonment began to quiet, replaced by the simpler concerns of farm tasks and language learning. At night, sitting on the small porch, while Elena knitted and Nikos smoked his pipe, I found myself experiencing moments of peace. The betrayal still cut deep, but here, surrounded by ancient olive trees and the rhythm of rural life, it began to feel less like the end of my story and more like an unexpected chapter. 2 weeks after my arrival, Elena sat beside me as we shelled peas from the garden. She studied my face, her expression thoughtful, before asking slowly in her improving English, "Home? You want go home?" She made a plain motion with her hand, then pointed toward America. The question hit me with unexpected force. Home. The word conjured our sleek Boston brownstone with its designer furniture and carefully coordinated decor. It also brought Gabriel's controlling behavior into sharp focus, his helpful management of our finances that left me without independent access. His subtle discouragement of my friendships, his dismissive attitude toward my career aspirations. Tears spilled down my cheeks as words poured out in a language Elena couldn't fully understand, but emotions that transcended the barrier. I told her about Gabriel's betrayal, about years of slowly surrendering pieces of myself to keep peace, about the humiliation of being abandoned like an unwanted bag in a foreign country. Elena's weathered hand covered mine as I spoke. When I finished, she pointed to her heart, then to the farm around us, and finally to me. The message was clear. I had a place here if I wanted it. Work, I said carefully, mimicking Nikos tending the olive trees. I stay. I work. Elena's smile bloomed like the sunrise over the Aegean. She nodded, squeezing my hand before returning to the peas, as if we'd just agreed to something as simple as tomorrow's menu, rather than a complete redirection of my life. My decision to stay marked the beginning of my education in olive farming. The very next morning, Elena shook me awake while stars still dotted the sky, handing me work clothes and sturdy boots that had belonged to Sophia. Half asleep, I followed her and Nikos to the grove, where the first hint of dawn barely illuminated the ancient trees. "Elise," Elena said, pointing to the fruit-laden branches. She demonstrated the proper technique, gently combing the branches with wooden rakes to release the olives onto nets spread below. My first attempt sent twigs and leaves showering down along with precious few olives, earning me a patient correction from Nikos. By mid-morning, the sun blazing overhead, my shoulders burned with exertion, and my city-soft hands had developed their first blisters. "Boston lady hands," Elena teased gently, examining my palms at lunch break. She disappeared into the house, returning with a homemade salve that smelled of herbs and beeswax. The cooling relief was immediate as she spread it across my raw skin. "Tomorrow better," she promised, and surprisingly, she was right. Each day brought improvement. My technique refined, my strength building, my hands toughening. Within weeks, I could work alongside them for hours without complaint, taking pride in the growing piles of harvested fruit. The sorting process proved even more demanding than the harvest. Seated at a long table under the shade of a pergola, we meticulously separated the olives by quality, the perfect ones destined for premium oil, slightly blemished for second grade, damaged ones for soap making. Elena watched me with hawk eyes at first, correcting my mistakes with gentle nudges. Gradually, her corrections became less frequent as my eye developed for the subtle distinctions. "You learn fast," Nikos commented one evening, his broken English improving alongside my rudimentary Greek. It was the highest compliment he'd paid me, and warmth spread through my chest at his approval. My education extended beyond the groves into Elena's kitchen, a place that initially intimidated me with its lack of modern conveniences. In Boston, I'd considered myself a decent cook, capable of following recipes from gourmet magazines for dinner parties that impressed Gabriel's colleagues. But Eleanor's cooking involved no measuring cups or precise temperatures, just generations of knowledge passed through hands and observation. "Watch," she'd say, kneading dough for bread with practiced motions. I'd mimic her movements, failing spectacularly at first. My initial loaves emerged from the outdoor stone oven misshapen and either underbaked or burnt beyond recognition. "Practice," Elena encouraged, breaking apart even my worst attempts to taste them all. "Learning is waste." Her acceptance of imperfections struck me as revolutionary. In my previous life, mistakes had been something to hide, not stepping stones to mastery. The simplicity of their meals revealed how processed my American diet had been. Here, everything came from their land or neighboring farms. Vegetables still warm from the sun, eggs collected that morning, cheese from the goats down the road. The flavors were vibrant and clean, needing little enhancement beyond olive oil, lemon, and herbs from Elena's garden. My body changed on this diet and work regimen. The designer clothes I'd arrived in grew loose as unnecessary weight melted away, replaced by lean muscle. My complexion, once maintained through expensive creams, glowed from simple olive oil soap and honest sweat. When I caught sight of myself in the small mirror above the bathroom sink, a stranger looked back. Tanned, stronger, somehow more substantial despite weighing less. As my Greek vocabulary expanded, Elena and I found more ways to communicate beyond labor and food. During evening breaks, she brought out her photo albums, pointing to black and white images of her youth in the village. I was startled to discover she'd once been a school teacher before returning to her family's olive business after marriage. "You?" she asked, mimicking typing on a keyboard. I took out my phone, showing her photos of my interior design projects from before marriage, the career Gabriel had dismissed as a hobby. Elena studied them with genuine interest, pointing to elements she liked and making appreciative sounds. "Beautiful thinking," she said, tapping her temple. Her validation of my creative work brought tears to my eyes. Such simple acknowledgement, yet something Gabriel had gradually withdrawn as our marriage progressed. One rainy afternoon, Elena taught me to knit, her patience endless as I dropped stitches and created uneven rows. My first completed project was a simple scarf, lumpy and imperfect, but entirely made by my hands. I wrapped it around my neck with more pride than I'd felt wearing the designer cashmere Gabriel had given me for Christmas. Other handmade possessions followed. A clay mug formed under Nico's guidance, a woven basket I learned to make from a neighbor. Each item represented hours of learning and connection, carrying stories that no purchased luxury ever could. My collection grew as my attachment to material perfection diminished. After 3 months of working without compensation beyond room and board, Elena approached me one morning with Nikos at her side. They led me to the small building where they pressed and bottled their olive oil, showing me the modest inventory they produced from our harvest. "Market day," Elena announced, pointing to the calendar. "You come." The village market bustled with activity, farmers and artisans displaying their goods, while locals and the occasional tourist browsed among the stalls. Elena and Nico set up their simple table, arranging bottles of golden green oil alongside olive soap and jars of preserved olives. To my surprise, they positioned me at the front of the table, encouraging me to speak with customers. My broken Greek and their limited English created moments of confusion and laughter, but sales steadily accumulated throughout the day. As the market closed, Elena handed me an envelope containing euros. "Your part," she said simply. "Fair work, fair pay." I stared at the modest sum, perhaps enough for a single meal at the restaurants Gabriel and I had frequented. Yet this money represented something I hadn't possessed in years, independence earned through my own labor. No strings attached, no subtle expectations of gratitude or compliance, just fair compensation for honest work. That night, I placed the envelope under my pillow, occasionally reaching to touch it as if to confirm its reality. In our decade of marriage, Gabriel had gradually taken control of our finances to simplify things, leaving me with credit cards linked to accounts he monitored. This small stack of euros represented the first step toward rebuilding a life that belonged fully to me. As I drifted towards sleep, I realized I hadn't thought about Gabriel at all during market day, my mind too occupied with Greek phrases for transactions and pride in our products. The space he'd occupied in my thoughts had shrunk, replaced by olive groves, kitchen lessons, and the growing certainty that I was capable of far more than he had ever allowed me to believe. The following week, Elena and Nikos invited me to join them for dinner at the taverna in the village square, a first since my arrival. Dressed in a borrowed blouse from Elena, I felt a nervous flutter as we entered the bustling establishment. The owner, Stavis, greeted the couple with enthusiastic embraces before turning curious eyes to me. "Our American," Elena said proudly in Greek, a phrase I'd learned to recognize. Stavis smiled warmly, ushering us to what was clearly their regular table. Over plates of grilled fish and village wine, Nikos cleared his throat and spoke in careful English. "Alexis, we want talk business with you." His seriousness caught me off guard. Had I made some mistake? Was it time for me to move on? Elena reached across the table, patting my hand reassuringly, before continuing where her husband left off. We old now. 68, 70 years, she pointed between herself and Nikos. No children here. Sophia not coming back. Nikos nodded solemnly. We think retire soon, 2 to 3 years. But olive trees. He made a sweeping gesture. 200 years old, need young hands. My breath caught as I began to understand. Elena smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. You learn fast, work hard. We teach everything. Then she spread her hands as if offering something. Business yours. The proposition stunned me. They barely knew me. A foreigner who'd stumbled into their lives just months ago. Yet here they were offering a future I hadn't dared imagine. But I don't know enough, I stammered. The trees, the pressing, the business side. You learn, Nikos said firmly. We teach, no rush. That night marked the beginning of my true apprenticeship. No longer just an extra pair of hands, I became heir to generations of knowledge. Each morning, Nikos took me through different sections of their groves, explaining how soil variations affected flavor profiles, how to identify early signs of disease, when precisely to harvest each section for optimal oil quality. Elena focused on teaching me the business records, a combination of handwritten ledgers and basic computer spreadsheets their grandson had set up during a holiday visit years ago. Her method of tracking expenses and income was functional but outdated. Seeing an opportunity to contribute beyond physical labor, I spent evenings updating their systems, creating digital records that made inventory and sales tracking simpler. Look, I showed Elena one night, demonstrating how to filter the spreadsheet to show which oil varieties sold best at which markets. Her eyes widened as patterns emerged from the numbers. Smart? She nodded approvingly. Boston lady brain, good for business. With their blessing, I began implementing small marketing improvements. Our hand-labeled bottles received updated tags with information about flavor profiles and food pairings, knowledge I'd gleaned from countless cooking lessons with Elena. I created a simple brochure about their traditional methods, answering the questions tourists frequently asked at our market stand. My improving Greek helped forge connections beyond Elena and Nico's immediate circle. The pharmacist who provided Elena's blood pressure medication began stopping by our market stall for conversations that extended beyond transactions. The baker's wife invited me to join her weekly coffee gathering with other village women, an intimidating but invaluable immersion in local language and customs. Stavis from the taverna became an unexpected ally when he began featuring our premium oil as a table offering, placing small cards with our new labels prominently on each table. Good for you, good for me, he explained with a wink when I thanked him. Word spread, and soon 2 other restaurants in neighboring towns contacted us about supplying their establishments. 6 months into my new life, I attended the baptism of the butcher's granddaughter, my first formal village celebration. Standing in the back of the small church, I watched the community ritual with a lump in my throat. The elderly priest noticed my presence and made a point of greeting me afterward, switching to halting English learned during seminary in Athens. You bring new life to Old Grove, he said, his rheumy eyes twinkling. Good for village. Young people leave for Athens, for America. Village needs new blood. His acceptance seemed to remove the last barrier. Invitations flowed more freely after that. To name day celebrations, impromptu gatherings at the beach, even a village committee meeting about the upcoming summer festival. Each event wove another strand into the web of connection, holding me in place. Yana, the weaver whose stall stood beside ours at the weekly market, became a particular friend. 40-something and widowed young, she possessed a sharp wit and pragmatic outlook that reminded me of my college roommate. Our conversations, conducted in my improving Greek and her excellent English, ranged from business strategies to village gossip to more personal reflections. You never speak of America, she observed one quiet afternoon as we packed up our unsold goods. Family there? Friends? The question pierced me unexpectedly. I'd grown so focused on building my new life that I'd pushed thoughts of my old one aside. My parents died years ago, a few friends, but I trailed off, realizing how Gabriel had gradually isolated me from my support network, always finding reasons why my college friends were problematic or work colleagues using me. Jana nodded knowingly. The husband who left you in Italy. You never say his name. Gabriel, I said, the syllables feeling foreign on my tongue after months of silence. His name is Gabriel. And he never searched for you? Her directness was refreshing after months of Elena and Nico's gentle avoidance of the topic. I don't know, I admitted. I haven't checked my phone. I gestured vaguely. I'd powered it on occasionally to take photos, but had abandoned my American email and social accounts, unwilling to confront whatever might be waiting there. Jana's raised eyebrow challenged me. Perhaps time to look, not for him, for you. To close the door properly. Her words stayed with me. That evening, after helping Eleanor prepare dinner, I retreated to my room and powered up my old phone, connecting to the farmhouse's basic Wi-Fi. With trembling fingers, I logged into my long-neglected email account. Hundreds of unread messages filled the screen. Scanning the senders, I spotted several from old friends, their subject lines evolving from casual check-ins to concerned inquiries. A surge of shame washed over me. I'd disappeared from their lives without explanation, just as thoroughly as I'd vanished from Gabriel's. A thread from my former design mentor caught my eye. Job opportunity, followed by increasingly urgent follow-ups. Opening it revealed she'd recommended me for a remote consulting position with a sustainable building materials company. The final email, dated just 2 weeks earlier, indicated the position was still open if I was interested. Before I could consider this unexpected bridge to my former life, another email sender froze my fingers on the screen. Gabriel Davis, with the subject line, "I know where you are." The timestamp showed it had arrived just hours earlier. Heart pounding, I clicked it open. "Alexis, it's taken months and a private investigator, but I finally tracked you to that backwater in Greece. This has gone on long enough. I'm coming to bring you home and end this ridiculous tantrum. My flight lands in Athens on Thursday. Be ready." 3 days from now. The room spun around me as panic and anger collided in my chest. How dare he? After abandoning me, after months without a word, he expected to simply collect me like misplaced luggage. I stumbled downstairs, the phone clutched in my hand. Elena looked up from the account ledger spread across the kitchen table, her smile fading as she registered my expression. "Bad news from America?" she asked gently. "Gabriel," I managed. "He's coming here, Thursday." Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. She reached beneath the ledger and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table toward me. Good timing then. Was waiting for right moment. Inside, I found legal papers bearing my name alongside Elena and Nico's, written in Greek with English translations. "Partnership agreement," Elena explained. "1/3 business. Years now, not future. Now." Tears blurred my vision as I stared at the document, understanding its significance. Not just employment or apprenticeship, but legitimate partnership. Not just a place to stay, but a foundation to build upon. Not charity, but earned recognition. "You choose what happens Thursday," Elena said firmly, tapping the papers. "You have home here, business here, friends here." She pointed to the phone in my hand. "That man, he no longer decides." The truth of her words settled over me like a mantle of certainty. For the first time since being abandoned in that Italian town, I felt not just surviving, but anchored. Gabriel was coming, but he would find a very different woman than the one he'd left behind. The following days passed in a blur of preparation, not the kind Gabriel would expect. No packing of bags or tearful goodbyes, but emotional fortification. I visited Katerina, the village's only lawyer, who helped me draft divorce papers in both Greek and English. I contacted my old design mentor, tentatively accepting the remote consulting opportunity. I even wrote emails to friends I'd left behind, offering brief explanations without apologies. Thursday arrived with a perfect Greek summer sky, cloudless and bright. I was in the processing shed testing olive oil samples with Nikos when the unfamiliar sound of a rental car engine broke the afternoon quiet. Elena appeared at the doorway, her expression a mixture of concern and resolve. "He is here," she said simply. Heart hammering, I wiped my hands on my work apron and stepped outside. Gabriel stood beside a sleek silver sedan, designer sunglasses perched on his perfectly coiffed hair, examining the humble farmhouse with visible distaste. He wore the casual but expensive travel outfit I recognized from countless business trips, tailored chinos and a button-down that probably cost more than a week's profit from our olive oil. He didn't notice me at first, giving me precious seconds to steady myself. This man who had once been the center of my universe now looked somehow smaller, less substantial, against the backdrop of ancient olive trees and weathered stone buildings that had become my home. "Gabriel," I called, my voice calmer than expected. He turned, and the shock that registered on his face was almost comical. His eyes traveled from my work boots to my sun-browned arms, lingering on my unstyled hair, pulled back in a simple bandana. I watched recognition battle with disbelief across his features. "My God, Alexis, what happened to you?" The familiar disapproving tone that once would have sent me scrambling to fix whatever he found lacking, now merely washed over me like a wave against rock. "Life happened," I replied, taking measured steps toward him. "What are you doing here, Gabriel?" He removed his sunglasses, his practiced charm sliding into place as he extended his arms. "I've come to take you home, of course. This has gone on long enough, don't you think? Whatever point you were trying to make." "This isn't about making a point," I interrupted, stopping well outside his reach. "This is about making a life." His smile faltered. Behind me, I heard the quiet shuffling of Elena and Nikos emerging from the house. Though they couldn't understand our words, they positioned themselves within view. Silent guardians ready to intervene if needed. Gabriel noticed them, his expression hardening. "Are these the people you've been staying with? Have they been holding you here? Because if so..." "They've been teaching me," I cut in, "about olive farming, about community, about kindness without conditions." I gestured toward the groves surrounding us. "I'm part owner now. I have a business here." Disbelief crossed his face, followed quickly by the condescension I knew all too well. "A business?" "Lexis, be serious. You're a designer, not a farmer. This is what... some eat, pray, love phase after our fight. I admit I shouldn't have left you in Italy. It was a stupid, drunken mistake. I've apologized. Now it's time to come home." "You've apologized?" I echoed. "When? In what universe does tracking me down and demanding I return count as an apology?" His jaw tightened, the charm evaporating. "Fine. I'm sorry I left you in Italy. It was immature and wrong. Is that what you want to hear? Can we move past this now? Why did you even look for me, Gabriel? It's been months. Why now?" He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the elderly couple watching us intently. "Can we discuss this privately? In the car, perhaps? They don't speak English, and I have nothing to hide from them. Why now?" His shoulders slumped slightly. "Your parents have been calling, friends asking questions at events, clients wondering why you're not at the house when they visit. It looks..." He trailed off. "Bad for your image," I finished for him. "Our reputation," he corrected sharply. "Our life together, the one we built over 10 years of marriage." "The one you built," I countered. "The one where I gradually became nothing more than an accessory to your success. Tell me, Gabriel, did you even notice how unhappy I was before Italy? Did you care?" His expression darkened. "We had a good life, Alexis. A beautiful home, financial security, respect in the community. What more could you possibly want? Purpose, connection, agency over my own choices." I gestured to the small stone house behind me. "I found all three here, in a place you dismiss as primitive and backward." "This isn't you," he insisted, desperation edging into his voice. The Alexis I know wouldn't choose manual labor and poverty over comfort and position. I smiled, recognizing the fundamental truth in his statement. You're right. The Alexis you knew wouldn't have. But that woman died in Italy when her husband abandoned her as a joke. The woman standing before you made different choices. Elena approached then, pressing something into my hand. The partnership agreement we'd signed. Though she couldn't follow our words, she'd sensed the moment had come. I unfolded the document and held it toward Gabriel. I have legal ties here now, a business partnership, responsibilities to people who value me for my contributions, not my appearance or social connections. His face flushed with anger. This is ridiculous. Whatever game you're playing. It's not a game, I said, reaching into my pocket for the envelope Katerina had prepared. These are divorce papers, Gabriel, already filed, with provisions for division of assets. He stared at the envelope as if it might burn him. You can't be serious. I am. You'd throw away everything for this? He gestured dismissively at the modest farm. I'm not throwing away anything. I'm choosing something better, something real. I stepped forward, placing the envelope in his rigid hand. You left me, Gabriel. You drove away laughing. You just never expected I'd find my way without you. His fingers closed reflexively around the papers, his expression cycling through shock, anger, and finally wounded pride. You'll regret this, he said. But the threat sounded hollow even to his own ears. When the novelty wears off, and you're still hauling olives in the hot sun at 60, you'll remember what you gave up. Maybe, I conceded. But I'd rather risk regret from choices I made than live with the certainty of regret from choices made for me. Nikos stepped forward then, placing a weathered hand on my shoulder. Though he couldn't understand our exchange, he recognized the conclusion in our body language. He said something in Greek to Gabriel, his tone firm but not unkind. What did he say? Gabriel asked, his voice smaller now. He said the road back to Athens is dangerous after dark. You should leave now to reach the city before nightfall. Gabriel looked between us, finally registering that this wasn't a negotiation or a rescue. It was a goodbye. Without another word, he returned to his rental car, the divorce papers clutched in his hand. As the vehicle disappeared down the dirt road, Elena slipped her hand into mine. Together, the three of us turned toward the house. My house now, too. The evening's work awaited. Oil samples to catalogue, dinner to prepare, tomorrow's market inventory to check. My husband had once abandoned me in a foreign country, assuming I'd be helpless without him, assuming I'd come crawling back once I'd learned my lesson. Instead, I'd found fertile ground to plant new roots, stronger and deeper than he could have imagined. Sometimes the cruelest actions yield the greatest gifts. Trying to break me, Gabriel had accidentally set me free. How did that story make you feel? If you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Share your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear from you. But don't go anywhere just yet, because the next story, it's even more powerful, packed with unexpected twists, raw emotions, and moments that will catch you completely off guard. Are you ready? Let's jump right in. The text message from my mother was crystal clear. Family meeting, 7 p.m., non-negotiable. I stood at my parents' front door, my hand hovering over the brass knocker, knowing whatever waited inside wouldn't be good. The perfectly manicured lawn and gleaming Mercedes in the driveway screamed success, the kind my family worshipped, and I'd apparently failed to achieve. I am Melanie, the black sheep of the Gonzalez family. While my siblings collected degrees and accolades like trading cards, I chose a different path, one that involved creating things with my hands and building something uniquely mine. The door swung open before I could knock. "You're late," my mother said, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Everyone's waiting." I checked my watch. 6:58 p.m. In my family, anything less than 10 minutes early was considered late. The living room fell silent as I entered. My sister Wendy sat primly on the edge of the leather sofa, her lawyer's briefcase by her feet. Louisa, fresh from her hospital shift, still wore her scrubs like a badge of honor. Nathan, my younger brother, didn't even look up from his phone. My father stood by the fireplace, hands clasped behind his back, like a general preparing for battle. "Sit down, Melanie," he commanded, gesturing to the lone armchair, facing everyone else. The setup reminded me of those intervention shows on TV. "What's this about?" I asked, remaining standing. Wendy reached into her briefcase and pulled out a document. "We've been discussing the family's future," she said in her courtroom voice, "and we've come to a decision, a necessary one. For the good of the family," my mother added, perching beside Louisa. The document made its way into my hands. The legal jargon was dense, but certain phrases jumped out. Formal dissolution of familial ties, relinquishment of inheritance rights, termination of family association. "You're disowning me?" The words came out as a whisper. "It's not personal." Nathan finally looked up. "It's business." "Business?" I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet room. "I'm your daughter, your sister. How is this not personal?" "Your choices reflect poorly on the family name," my father said. "Your little craft hobby." "My business," I corrected. "Making trinkets in your apartment isn't a business," Louisa scoffed. "It's embarrassing. Do you know how it feels when my colleagues ask what my sister does?" "We've given you every opportunity," my mother continued. "The best schools, connections, resources, and you've thrown it all away to play with glue and glitter." I looked down at the document again, my hands steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Years of subtle jabs, disappointed sighs, and backhanded compliments had prepared me for this moment. They'd never understood me, never tried to. "Where do I sign?" My mother blinked, clearly expecting tears or pleading. "Melanie, if you just reconsider your choices." "Where do I sign?" Wendy pointed to the bottom of the page. "Initial here and sign here. There's a notary waiting in the study." 10 minutes later, it was done. I was no longer officially part of the Gonzalez family. The weight of their expectations, their judgment, their disapproval, all of it lifted from my shoulders. "I hope you understand," my father said as I headed for the door. "This is for the best." I turned back one last time, taking in their faces, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. "You know what's funny? You're so worried about the family name, about success and reputation, but you have no idea what I've actually built. You never bothered to ask." My mother started. "No." I cut her off. "You've made your choice. Now you get to live with it." The door closed behind me with a soft click, far too gentle for the magnitude of what had just happened. My phone buzzed, a notification from my business account. Another major order had come in, pushing my monthly revenue well into 6 figures again. I smiled as I walked to my car, thinking about the stack of orders waiting to be filled, the upcoming collaboration with a major retailer, and the feature article being written about my innovative approach to sustainable crafting. They wanted to cut me off? Fine. They'd learn soon enough what they'd thrown away. Success, after all, is the sweetest revenge. As I drove away from the house I'd grown up in, I didn't feel sadness or anger. Instead, I felt something else entirely. Freedom. The freedom to be exactly who I was, without apology or explanation. Family, I realized, isn't about sharing a name or DNA. It's about who believes in you when no one else will. And I had people in my life who did exactly that. They just weren't the ones I was leaving behind. "You did what?" Mara nearly spilled her coffee across my workshop table. 3 days had passed since the disownment, and I'd finally gathered the courage to tell my best friend. "Sign the papers without arguing," I said, carefully applying gold leaf to my latest creation. You should have seen their faces. They expected tears, begging, maybe a dramatic breakdown. But your inheritance, Mel, the family connections, all of it, just gone. I set down my tools and looked at her directly. What inheritance? A share in a car dealership I never wanted. The privilege of being told I'm a disappointment at every family dinner. Ezra burst through the door, his laptop clutched to his chest like a lifeline. My marketing guru and business partner always had perfect timing. "Mel, you need to see this." He spun his laptop around. Our latest collection just got picked up by Style and Home magazine. They're calling you the artisan revolutionizing sustainable home decor. Mara peered at the screen. Holy, Mel, these numbers. Is that really how much you're making? That's just last month, Ezra grinned. Wait until they see what we've got planned next. The eco-friendly packaging initiative alone is going to... My phone buzzed. Another order notification. Then another. And another. What's happening? I asked Ezra. He refreshed his browser. The article just went live. We're trending on social media. The sustainable living community is going crazy over your recycled material techniques. I walked to the wall of shelves displaying my latest pieces, handcrafted home decor, made entirely from reclaimed materials. Each piece told a story. Discarded wood, transformed into elegant wall art. Salvaged metal, reformed into striking sculptures. Forgotten glass reborn as stunning light fixtures. We need to scale up, Ezra said, already typing furiously. I'm getting inquiries from 3 major retailers. They want exclusive collections. Mara squeezed my shoulder. And your family has no idea. They never bothered to look, I said, picking up a piece I'd finished that morning. A delicate wind chime made from sea glass and driftwood. Too busy being embarrassed by their crafty daughter to notice she built a 6-figure business from scratch. 7 figures, actually, Ezra corrected, still typing, after these deals go through. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, is this Melanie Gonzalez? A woman's crisp voice asked. This is Catherine Chen from Business Forward magazine. We're doing a feature on emerging entrepreneurs in the sustainable luxury market. Your name keeps coming up. I caught Ezra's eye. He gave me a thumbs up. I'd love to hear more, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. We're particularly interested in your journey. Young female entrepreneur, innovative approach to sustainability, rapid growth. Would you be open to an interview? Cover story potential. I thought about my family's faces when they saw me on the cover of a national business magazine. Absolutely. When were you thinking? After setting up the interview, I turned to find both Mara and Ezra staring at me. What? Business Forward, Ezra whispered. Do you know how huge this is? Their features can make or break companies. Mara hugged me tight. This is it, Mel. This is your moment to show them all. I pulled away and picked up my tools again. No, this is my moment to show myself. I've got orders to fill. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I hired 3 assistants to help with production. Ezra expanded our online presence and negotiated deals with retailers. Mara helped me prepare for the Business Forward interview. Tell me again about your inspiration, she said one evening, playing reporter. I held up my latest piece, a chandelier made from broken mirrors and copper wire. I see beauty in broken things, in the pieces others throw away. Everything has potential if you look at it the right way. That's it, she said softly. That's what makes your work special. You're not just making pretty things. You're telling stories of transformation. My phone buzzed with a text from Ezra. Major department store wants to meet tomorrow. Be ready. I looked around my workshop. Once a dusty garage, now a thriving studio. Orders lined the walls. Half-finished pieces waited on workbenches. The air smelled of wood polish and possibility. You know what the best part is? I said to Mara, who was admiring the chandelier. I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. What they called a hobby is now an empire in the making. Speaking of them, Mara hesitated. Have you heard anything? Not a word. I picked up my tools again. But they will soon enough. Everyone will. The chandelier caught the setting sun, sending fractured light dancing across the walls. Like my life, I thought. Broken pieces creating something unexpectedly beautiful. Time to get back to work, I said, reaching for another piece of salvaged copper. These orders won't fill themselves. There she is. Catherine from Business Forward rushed toward me, her heels clicking against the studio floor. Our cover girl. She thrust the magazine into my hands. My face stared back at me, surrounded by my most intricate pieces. The headline read, "The Queen of Sustainable Luxury: How Melanie Gonzalez Turned Trash into Treasure." "The response has been incredible," Catherine gushed. "Social media's exploding. 3 major networks want interviews." Ezra burst in, waving his phone. "Mel, the website crashed from traffic. We've got wait lists forming for every piece. And that department store deal, they doubled their initial offer." I traced my finger over the magazine cover, still struggling to believe it was real. The article detailed everything: my creative process, business model, revenue growth. Everything except my family's rejection. "The Today Show called," Catherine continued. "They want you for Monday morning, prime slot." My phone lit up with a text from Wendy, my first contact with family in 2 months. "We need to talk. Urgent family matters." I showed the message to Mara, who'd been quietly organizing orders in the corner. "Funny how you're suddenly family again," she muttered. Another text arrived, this time from Louisa. "Saw the magazine. Why didn't you tell us? Call me ASAP." "Ignore them," Ezra said, glancing at my phone. "We've got bigger things to focus on. The Singapore collector wants to commission 3 custom pieces, 6 figures each." Catherine cleared her throat. "Speaking of figures, Forbes is interested in featuring you in their 30 under 30 list." The notifications kept coming. "Nathan, Mum's upset. You should call her." Then my father, "We should discuss your recent publicity." "Your story's inspiring people," Catherine said, oblivious to my family drama. "Young entrepreneur refuses to follow conventional path, proves everyone wrong. It's resonating, especially the sustainability angle." Ezra added, "The video of you collecting materials from demolition sites went viral. People love seeing the transformation process." My phone buzzed again, my mother this time. "Family dinner, Sunday, 7 p.m. We have much to discuss." Mara read the message over my shoulder. "You're not going, right?" I set the phone down and picked up a piece of sea glass, turning it over in my hands. "Remember what you said about my work, Mara? About seeing beauty in broken things?" "Mel, no, they don't deserve—" "I'm going," I cut her off, "but not for the reasons they think." The rest of the week was a whirlwind. The Today Show interview went viral. Orders flooded in faster than we could handle them. I hired 5 more assistants and leased additional workspace. "Look at these numbers," Ezra said during our Friday meeting. "We've exceeded our annual projection in just 2 months. The sustainable luxury market can't get enough of your work." The waiting list for custom pieces is 6 months long," one of my assistants added, "even with the premium pricing." I nodded, only half listening. Sunday's dinner loomed in my mind. Then my phone lit up with an email that changed everything. "Holy," I whispered. Ezra looked up. "What?" "The Museum of Modern Art. They want to feature my work in their upcoming exhibition on sustainable art." The studio erupted in cheers. Mara hugged me tight. "See? This is what happens when you believe in yourself." "When do they want to meet?" Ezra asked, already pulling up his calendar. "Next week, in New York." I laughed. "They're sending a private jet." Sunday arrived too quickly. As I pulled up to my parents' house, I noticed all their cars were already there, the whole family, right on time as usual. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Catherine. "Breaking news, your Business Forward feature just won US Magazine Story of the Year. Congratulations!" I smiled, tucking the phone away. Perfect timing. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, looking exactly as she had the night they disowned me, except now her eyes held something new: desperation. "Melanie, darling." She stepped forward for a hug I didn't return. "We've missed you." Behind her, I could see the rest of the family in the living room, Wendy with her briefcase again, Louisa pretending to read something on her phone, Nathan actually looking at me this time, my father still by his beloved fireplace. "Have you?" I asked, stepping past her into the house. "Or did you miss what I represent now?" The room fell silent. On the coffee table, I spotted copies of Business Forward. My face stared up at all of us, a testament to everything they'd dismissed. "We should talk," my father said, his voice lacking its usual authority. "About the future, about family." I sat in the same chair they'd put me in months ago, when they decided I wasn't good enough to be part of their family. "Yes," I agreed, smoothing my designer dress paid for with my little craft hobby money. "Let's talk about the future." The silence in the living room was thick enough to cut. My mother bustled around pouring tea nobody asked for, while my father cleared his throat repeatedly. "Your work is impressive," Wendy finally said, tapping the magazine cover. "The profit margins mentioned in the article are quite remarkable." "Remarkable?" I raised an eyebrow. "I thought it was just a hobby. Playing with glue and glitter. Wasn't that what you called it, Louisa?" Louisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "We may have been hasty in our judgments." "Hasty?" I took a sip of tea. "You disowned me, had it notarized." "About that," my father stepped forward. "We've been discussing as a family, and we believe it's time to rectify that unfortunate situation." "Unfortunate situation?" I repeated. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Wendy reached for her briefcase, always the lawyer. "I've drawn up papers to nullify the previous agreement. We can have it done today." "The timing seems convenient," I said, watching their faces. "Right after the magazine cover, the TV appearances, the museum exhibition announcement." "Museum exhibition?" Nathan perked up. "MoMA," I said casually, enjoying their shocked expressions. "They're flying me to New York next week, private jet." My mother dropped a teacup. It shattered on the hardwood floor, but nobody moved to clean it up. "Melanie," my father's voice took on the tone he used for important business deals. "There's something else we need to discuss." "The dealership is struggling," I finished for him. "I know. I did my research. The shift toward electric vehicles hit you hard. Banks aren't as friendly as they used to be." The color drained from his face. "How did you—" "I have good financial advisors now. They keep me informed about potential opportunities." "Then you understand," Wendy jumped in. "The family business needs to evolve. Your sustainable approach, your media presence, it could be exactly what we need." I laughed, the sound echoing in the tense room. "So that's what this is about? You don't want me back. You want my success to save you." "That's not fair," Louisa protested. "We're family." "Are we?" I stood up, walking to the fireplace where family photos still hung, none of them including me. "Because 3 months ago, in this very room, you made it very clear that I wasn't family anymore." "People make mistakes," my mother said softly. "We're trying to make it right." "No." I turned to face them. "You're trying to save yourselves. The dealership's facing bankruptcy, isn't it, Dad? And Wendy, that partner position you were promised. It fell through when your biggest client left. Lou, the hospital is cutting staff. And Nathan's research funding got pulled." They stared at me, shocked at how much I knew. Like I said, good advisors. "We could help each other," my father insisted. "Pool our resources. The Gonzalez name still means something in this city." "My name means something," I corrected him. "My work means something. And I did that without your help. Actually, I did it despite your active discouragement." My phone buzzed, a text from Ezra. "Singapore collector doubled their offer again. Says price is no object." "I have a meeting," I said, gathering my things. "With people who believed in me before the magazine covers and TV spots." "Melanie, please." My mother grabbed my arm. "We're sorry. We were wrong. What more can we say?" I gently removed her hand. "You know what's interesting about my work? I take broken things that people throw away and turn them into something valuable. But some things once broken can't be fixed. Some relationships once shattered stay that way." "You're really going to hold a grudge?" Nathan asked. "After we've apologized?" "Apologized?" I walked to the door. "All I've heard are business propositions and convenient excuses. Not one of you has actually said you're proud of what I've built or that you were wrong about my choices. You just want what I have now." That's not true, Wendy started. Save it, I cut her off. Keep your legal papers and your business proposals. I'm doing fine on my own. At the door, I turned back one last time. You know what the worst part is? If you'd supported me from the beginning, I would have helped you without hesitation. Family meant everything to me. But you taught me something valuable when you disowned me. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. I walked out, leaving them with their broken teacup and shattered pride. My phone buzzed again, Mara this time. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I texted back. They want what I have, not who I am. Their loss, she replied. Studio's packed with orders. Want to come help? Pizza on me. I smiled, starting my car. On my way. Family dinners overrated anyway. The sun was setting as I drove away, casting long shadows behind me. Like the pieces I worked with, I'd been discarded but found my own way to shine. Some might call it karma. I called it justice. The text came 3 days later. Dinner tonight? Please. Dad. I showed it to Ezra during our morning meeting. Think he'll actually say, please, in person. Don't go, he said, not looking up from his laptop. We've got the MoMA meeting tomorrow, and the Singapore contract tracks need reviewing. I'm going. I picked up a piece of twisted metal, considering its potential. But this time I choose the place. I texted back. London 8 p.m. I'll make reservations. The response was immediate. That's a bit expensive. I'm buying, I replied. Bring Mom. Lon was the kind of restaurant my parents used to brag about going to before the dealership started struggling. I arrived early, wearing a designer dress that cost more than my old monthly rent. They walked in right on time, looking uncomfortable. The maitre d' recognized me immediately. Miss Gonzalez, your usual table is ready. The chef sends his regards and asks if you'd like the special tasting menu he's prepared. My parents' eyes widened. I smiled. That would be lovely, Thomas. Thank you. Once seated, my father cleared his throat. Your usual table? I invest in local businesses, I said, sipping my water. This place included. The chef does amazing things with sustainable ingredients. My mother fidgeted with her napkin. Melanie, about Sunday. Let's order first, I cut her off as the sommelier approached. The 82 Bordeaux, please, the whole bottle. My father's face paled. I knew he recognized the 4-figure wine. Now, I said after our glasses were filled. What's so urgent? They exchanged glances before my father spoke. The bank called in our loans, all of them. We have 30 days to either refinance or sell the dealership. And, my mother jumped in, we've explored every option. Nobody's lending in this market. Not to car dealerships, I added. Especially not to dealerships without a clear transition plan to electric vehicles. The first course arrived. Tiny works of art on pristine plates. My parents barely touched theirs. We need help, my father said finally, the words seeming to physically pain him. Your help. Financial help. I clarified. Not family reconciliation? Both, my mother insisted. We were wrong, Melanie. So wrong. Seeing what you've built, what you've become, what I've become. I set down my fork. I'm exactly who I was 3 months ago. The only difference is now I have money and influence. The second course arrived. My father still hadn't touched his first. We're not just asking for money, he said. We want to merge the businesses. Your vision, your sustainable approach. It could revolutionize the dealership. Electric vehicles, eco-friendly practices. And save the family name, I finished. That's what this is really about, isn't it? My mother reached for my hand. I let her take it, watching her face. We're losing everything, Melanie. The house, the business, our reputation. Like I lost my family. She withdrew her hand. The main course arrived, perfectly cooked Wagyu beef. The chef stopped by personally to check on us. Everything is perfect, Antonio. I assured him. The new sustainable menu is brilliant. After he left, my father leaned forward. How much? Excuse me. To save the dealership. How much do you want? I laughed, the sound drawing glances from nearby tables. You still don't get it. This isn't about money. It never was. Then what do you want? He demanded, frustration breaking through his carefully maintained facade. I wanted you to love me for who I am, I said quietly. I wanted you to be proud of me before the magazine covers and TV spots. I wanted a family who saw my value without a dollar sign attached to it. The dessert arrived, a spectacular creation of sponge, sugar, and gold leaf. My mother started crying silently. We can change, she whispered. We can be better. I signaled for the check. Maybe you can, but here's the thing. I don't need you to anymore. I don't need your approval, your connections, or your name. I built something beautiful out of what you threw away. The bill came. I handed over my black card without looking at the total. So that's it? My father asked. You'll let the family business die? Let us lose everything? I stood up, smoothing my dress. You taught me an important lesson when you disowned me. Business is business. It's not personal. Melanie, please, my mother started. I have an early flight to New York tomorrow. I cut her off. The museum's sending a car at 6. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's already paid for. I walked out of Leeson, leaving them with their cold food and colder reality. My phone buzzed, Mara asking how it went. They finally said, please, I texted back. Too bad it was for the wrong reasons. The night air was cool on my face as I headed home. Tomorrow I'd be discussing my art in one of the world's premier museums. Tonight, I'd left my parents with the bill they never saw coming, the true cost of throwing away family for the sake of appearances. They offered what? Mara nearly fell off her chair in my New York hotel suite. 20 million, I repeated. Still staring at the contract Mum's lawyers had presented for a permanent installation and consulting role on their sustainable art initiative. Holy, Ezra whispered, pacing the room. That's not including the Singapore deals or the retail contracts. My phone buzzed. Wendy again. Dad's meeting with bankruptcy lawyers tomorrow. Please call. I ignored it, focusing on the Manhattan skyline outside my window. The museum's private car would arrive in an hour for the final contract signing. Your family's blowing up my phone too, Mara said. Your sister Louisa came by the studio yesterday. What did she want? To explain their side, said they're about to lose the house. Nathan's moving back in with them since his research position got cut. Another text from my mother. Please come home. We need to talk as a family. Ezra stopped pacing. You know what's ironic? If they hadn't disowned you, your business wouldn't have grown this fast. You channeled all that hurt into your work. Speaking of work, Mara picked up a piece from my latest collection. A phoenix rising from twisted metal and broken glass. This is different, darker. It's for the museum installation, I said. I'm calling it Family Ties. My phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. You could save them, Ezra said quietly. 20 million would clear their debts with plenty left over. I could, I agreed. But should I? Mara stood up, walking to the phoenix sculpture. Remember what you told me when you started this? About seeing beauty in broken things. This is different. Is it? She turned the piece, watching light play through the glass. Maybe this is your chance to transform something broken into something beautiful. My phone buzzed again. A text from Nathan. They're auctioning off Mom's jewelry tomorrow, even her wedding ring. They made their choice, I said, but my voice wavered. Ezra sat down, pulling up something on his laptop. Look at this. I've been running numbers. You could buy the dealership for pennies on the dollar right now, transform it into an electric vehicle showroom, your sustainable brand plus their existing infrastructure. It could work. Mara added, but only if you wanted to. A knock at the door interrupted us. A courier with a thick envelope. Inside was a letter from my father, handwritten. Melanie, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing sounds right. Nothing can excuse what we did. You were always the strongest of us, the most genuine. We were too blind to see it. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a chance to be the father I should have been, to be the family you deserved. We're losing everything, but that's not why I'm writing. We lost what mattered most the day we signed those papers. We lost you. I'm proud of you, not because of your success, but because of who you are, who you've always been. Love, Dad. The paper shook in my hands. Mel? Mara asked softly. He said he's proud of me, I whispered, for the first time in my life. Ezra closed his laptop. The museum contract doesn't need to be signed today. We could postpone. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Lisa. Mum's in the hospital. Stress and exhaustion. She keeps asking for you. I looked at the phoenix sculpture, its broken pieces forming something new, something stronger. Call the car, I said. We're making a stop before the museum. Where? Mara asked, though her smile suggested she already knew. The bank. I need to make some arrangements. And then? Ezra was already dialing. I picked up the phoenix carefully, wrapping it. Then we're going to save a family, but on my terms. What are you thinking? Mara asked. A new company, sustainable luxury vehicles, electric showrooms with my art installations, a complete reinvention of what the family business means. With you in charge, Ezra added. With me in charge, I agreed. They want to be family again? Fine, but we do it my way. No more hiding who I am, no more shame about being different. The prodigal daughter returns, Mara smiled, but this time, she's the one with the power. I looked at my father's letter again. Sometimes the things we break can be rebuilt stronger, but first, everyone has to admit they're broken. The car arrived as I finished packing the phoenix. It seemed fitting. This piece about resurrection would now witness one. Ready? Mara asked. I nodded, tucking the letter into my pocket. Time to show them what family really means, and what it costs. We headed down to the waiting car, the phoenix carefully cradled in my arms. Its glass wings caught the sunlight, sending fragments of light dancing across the walls, broken pieces coming together to create something unexpected, something beautiful, just as it should be. The hospital waiting room fell silent as I walked in, the phoenix sculpture still in my arms. My siblings looked up from their phones, their faces a mix of surprise and relief. You came, Wendy said, standing. Where is she? I asked. Room 304, Louisa answered. Dad's with her. Nathan stepped forward. The doctors say it's mostly exhaustion and… Save it, I cut him off. We're having a family meeting now. Conference room down the hall, all of you. They exchanged glances but followed me. The phoenix found its temporary home on the conference room table, its shadows dancing across their tired faces. Before we see Mom, I said, pulling out a stack of papers, we're going to get some things straight. Is that… Wendy started, recognizing legal documents. A new company structure, yes. I laid out the papers. The dealership gets restructured into Phoenix Electric, sustainable luxury vehicles. I'll clear the debts, invest in electric infrastructure, and integrate my art installations into the showrooms. Their eyes widened at the numbers, but I continued. There are conditions, of course. There are, Nathan muttered. First, I'm CEO, non-negotiable. Dad becomes chairman emeritus, advisory role only. Each of you gets shares based on your contribution to the new vision, not family ties. Wendy reached for the papers. I pulled them back. I'm not finished. Second condition. The old family dynamics die today. No more judgment about life choices. No more forcing people into boxes they don't fit in. Is this revenge? Louisa asked quietly. No. I picked up the phoenix. It's resurrection. But first you need to understand what you did. I faced each of them. Wendy, you drafted the papers to disown me. Louisa, you mocked my little hobby every chance you got. Nathan, you couldn't even look at me that night. Each of you chose status over sister. The room fell silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights. We were wrong, Wendy whispered. Say it louder. We were wrong. She stood up, tears in her eyes. I was wrong. I let my own insecurities about success blind me. You built something amazing while I chased other people's definitions of achievement. Louisa joined her. I was jealous. You had the courage to follow your passion while I followed expectations. I'm so sorry, Mel. Nathan remained seated. I was a coward, he said simply. I knew they were wrong about you, but I stayed quiet. It was easier. I set the Phoenix down. That's a start. Now about Mum and Dad. The door opened. My father stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I heard everything, he said. The nurses said you were here and He trailed off, staring at the Phoenix. Dad, no. He held up his hand. My turn. He walked to the sculpture, touching it gently. This is beautiful, like everything you create. I was too proud, too stuck in my ways to see it, to see you. The company, Wendy started, isn't what matters, he cut her off. Your mother's upstairs wondering if she'll ever see her daughter again, not because of the money or the business, but because we threw away our child for nothing. I felt tears threatening, but held them back. Not nothing. You threw me away for appearances, for status, for the family name. And look where that got us. He gestured to the hospital walls. Our name means nothing now, but you built something real, something meaningful. He picked up the papers, reading quickly. These terms, they're more than fair, more than we deserve. Dad, you'd be giving up control, Nathan pointed out. Good, he said firmly. Look what my control did to this family. He turned to me. The company is yours. The family, that's up to you. I took a deep breath. Mum first, then we sign. We rode the elevator in silence. Outside room 304, I stopped them. One more thing. That disownment paper, I want it destroyed, publicly. At the first board meeting of Phoenix Electric. Done, they said in unison. My mother was awake, looking small in the hospital bed. When she saw me, she started crying. My baby, she reached out. I'm so sorry, so sorry. I took her hand, feeling its trembles. I know, Mum, I know. We can't take it back, she said through tears. But can we try again, please? I looked around at my family, broken, humbled, but here, like the materials I worked with, sometimes the most damaged pieces could be transformed into something stronger. Yes, I said, squeezing her hand. But this time, we do it right. All of us. The Phoenix on the conference room table caught the setting sun, sending ribbons of light through the hospital window. Sometimes, I thought, resurrection comes at a price. But if everyone's willing to pay it, the result can be beautiful. The Phoenix Electric showroom gleamed under spotlights and camera flashes. My latest installation, a massive chandelier made from recycled car parts, dominated the entrance. Reporters jostled for position as my father cut the ribbon. And with that, he announced, we welcome you to the future of sustainable luxury. Mara appeared at my elbow. Channel 7 wants an interview with the CEO. The CEO is busy admiring her work, I smiled, watching potential customers stream in. Ezra rushed over with his tablet. Pre-orders are insane. The sustainable luxury market is eating this up. Your art installations are trending on every platform. My mother touched my arm gently. A new habit she'd developed, as if making sure I was real. Melanie, darling, the governor's asking about commissioning a piece for the State House. Tell him to call my assistant, I winked. I'm very exclusive these days. Across the showroom, Wendy was explaining our innovative financing programs to a group of investors. Louisa had taken a part-time position heading our medical transport division. Even Nathan had found his place, leading our research partnership with local universities. Ms. Gonzalez, a reporter pushed forward. How does it feel to revolutionize a traditional family business? Before I could answer, my father stepped in. My daughter didn't just revolutionize the business, he said proudly. She saved it by being exactly who she always was. The reporter's eyebrows shot up. Even after the family drama, our sources say there was quite a rift. I met my father's eyes. Sometimes rifts create space for new foundations. Speaking of foundations, Ezra interrupted, tablet extended. The Sustainable Arts Foundation called. They want you to head their board. My mother squeezed my hand. Go, she whispered. We can handle things here. I shook my head. Family first, business second. That's our new motto, remember? The showroom continued filling with people admiring both the vehicles and the art. Each piece told a story of transformation, from the chandelier above to the small phoenix sculpture still perched on my desk. Mel, Mara called out. Your sister's looking for you. Something about the community outreach program. I found Louisa in the conference room, surrounded by blueprints. We got approved, she announced. The Youth Arts Center can break ground next month in the old dealership lot. Where else? She smiled. From car sales to creating opportunities. Very on brand for the new us. Nathan poked his head in. Mom's getting emotional again. Dad's trying to handle it, but... I followed him to find our mother wiping tears, surrounded by concerned guests. Mom? I touched her shoulder. You okay? She pulled me into a hug. I just never imagined all of this. You've made something so beautiful, inside and out. We made it, I corrected her. Once we stopped breaking things and started fixing them. Wendy joined us, champagne in hand. To fixing things. She raised her glass. And to my sister, who taught us that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we almost throw away. The evening wound down as the last guest left. My family gathered under the chandelier. Its shadows danced across our faces, broken pieces creating patterns none of us could have predicted. The disownment papers, my father said suddenly. We never did destroy them publicly. I walked to my office, returning with a document that had changed everything. Actually, I said, I had other plans for these. I handed pieces to each family member. Together we walked to the art installation in the center of the showroom, a massive glass furnace, part of my live demonstration space. The phoenix rises, I said, opening the furnace door. But first, the old has to burn. One by one, we fed the papers into the flames. As they burned, I reached for the glass-blowing tools. Watch, I told them, gathering the molten glass mixed with the paper ashes. Hours later, a new piece sat cooling. A small family of glass figures, their cores containing the ashes of our worst moment, transformed into something new. It's us, my mother whispered. It's who we are now, I corrected. Not perfect, not unbroken, but stronger where we were broken. Ezra and Mara found us still there, admiring the piece. Ready to call it a night, boss? Ezra asked. I looked at my family, really looked at them. At my father's proud smile, my mother's gentle touch, my siblings' relaxed poses. At how far we'd come from that night, they'd tried to disown me. Actually, I said, I think we're just getting started. The chandelier above caught the last light of day, sending fragments of rainbow across the showroom floor. Like family, like art, like life itself. Sometimes the most beautiful things come from knowing exactly which pieces to keep, which to transform, and which to let go. Come on, I told them all. Let's go home. And this time, I knew exactly what that meant.